And if you are asking, what about my Stratasys J850? Screw you. You know it's fine. It's a $400,000 machine. You don't count.
In the list of like PET-based materials, because PCTG is still a PET material.
Well,
it goes PET at the top. It is the hardest to print. It's the least
raw
filtered.
PET is tough.
It's the strongest. It is at the top. Then you get PCTG / PETC is sometimes referenced it as it just because people hate the same naming conventions, where it prints slightly colder, it's slightly stabilized, it doesn't warp as much as PET, and you get pretty much all the same features as PET, but it's a bit easier. Then you go down further and you get PETG, which is the glycol modified PET, which is colder again. It's weaker, it warps more, but it's stabilized, so it's easier to print. So you get this like nice slider of how strong do you want your filament to be. Do you want it a little bit stronger than PETG? Go PETC. Do you want it a little bit stronger than PETC? Go PCTG, or just like a higher grade of PETC. Do you want it to be the strongest you can physically get? Go PET. Just raw PET. And it's this nice little slider.
Real quick, since this is something that comes up often with PETs, Naughty Shepherd says, I have a question. I've seen a lot of people posting models intended for use with food. Would you ever consider printed objects to be food safe?
Okay, this might be a split decision now, because I've changed my mindset.
Well, it depends on what technology we're talking with 3D printing. There are technologies with 3D printing that are food safe, that are very safe. However, the technology that we're talking about today, FDM, FFF, whatever you want to call it, the filament printers, no. It is technically usable once, but it is not able to be sanitized in a meaningful way without fundamentally destroying the interlayer bonds of the 3D print, and therefore, without a exterior coating of some sort, it is not food safe. Now, to be clear, the raw material, like pure PETG, that is food safe. What isn't food safe traditionally is the 3D printed process, right? Because you're using brass, which has a small amount, but immeasurable amount of lead in it. You're dealing with other contaminants within the system, and especially with raw PETG, has a tendency to bubble and create microvoids, cracks, and fissures. Yes, if you coat it in an epoxy, it's totally fine and will last effectively forever. But from a content creation perspective, 3D prints are not food safe. And if you are asking, what about my Stratasys J850? Screw you. You know it's fine. It's a $400,000 machine. You don't count.
I will just say, for anyone who considers silk filament aesthetic only.
Yeah.
Do not do anything else with it. Just aesthetic only. The problem with adding a bit of TPU into it and an elastomer to it to make that silken effect is it heavily degrades the polymer chain. It means you end up with, well, take any plastic part where you bend it and it whitens. That whitening, instead of it whitening, it becomes silk-like. It's still damaged. That's how they get the effect, is they're intentionally straining the material to make it look good, but it also means that material is inherently much weaker. Like, no, not just like weaker in a little bit, like, oh, it's a percentage difference that you're not really going to notice. Like, no, you can take a silken part and crush it in your hand with the right settings.
It is much stronger than you think. Crappy silk, yes, it's nowhere near as good. And traditionally speaking, silk is just for show, not for go.
So if you're printing with silk and you're having issues and you go to matte, you're going to have more issues. You get so they add some form of caking agent to the material. So as it's cooling down, it cracks the surface. So you end up with these micro textures appearing on the filament. And that's what makes it matte. It stops the light from reflecting off uniformly. The downside of that is it does it on the interlayer bonding itself. It also does it inside the material. So you end up with these micro fissures throughout everything. Even if they're imperceptible, it does hugely weaken the polymer. And you can get matte like PETG, and you can get matte other materials. Like I've got a matte TPU, and it's generally okay because it's such a strong base material, but it will be inherently weaker, it'll be inherently stiffer. Also, heat creep in your nozzle will be worse. Whatever additive they add for the caking agent, we have noticed we actually have roughly a 30% increase in thermal issues by heat creep. So we have to have a minimum flow rate for certain materials because they will creep, even if you've got a perfect scenario, just because the material is badly blended. So I don't like matte materials that much unless they are for aesthetic and only aesthetic. I won't even try doing anything strong out of a matte material.
These are identical prints, identical G-code of whatever the hell this neon is, and Polar 60D. It's definitely, Polar 60D is definitely stiffer. But something that Mitch has told me and has pushed me to want to get a durometer tester, he's like, yeah, TPU, it's all a lie. He's like, most companies that claim 95A on Amazon, they're not. He said sometimes they're really high, sometimes they're incredibly low.
I actually have a roll of Ninja Flex from 2012, I think. No, a bit older, 2016. And I swear to God, I bought a brand new reel of, I think it's high flow TPU from Overtone. I swear the high flow TPU is softer than the Ninja Flex.
And it might be.
Even though the TPU is saying it's 95A.
It might just be easier to print.
And my Ninja Flex is saying 50. And it is not. There is straight up, whatever they've done to the high flow 95A is softer than a 50A. I don't know what they've done. It's just so much softer.
Parameters alone will determine what the effective end durometer is. So if you're printing something where you want it to be squishy, but you want it to have an internal air cavity, gyroid infill every single day of the week. Oh my gosh. Gyroid and TPU is a match made in heaven. Back when I was still using a cane, you can actually find this stream. It's a long time ago on this channel when I still had long hair. When I modeled a cane handle live on YouTube, and we were able to open source it. So it's out there. You can download it. You can download the step files and all of that. And the F3D file if you wanted. But we designed it so that with gyroid, it would create air pockets. And the goal there was so that when you put your weight on that cane handle, that the air pressure would push back. So you wouldn't actually hit the metal cane. You'd be pressing onto what is basically a car tire. And it was so much more comfortable. And it showed me the power of TPU. But like, I wanted to advertise on it. It's like I had my company name on the side of it. When I printed that, it was so much stiffer because of all the different geometry that was now a part of it. So I ended up having to make one that was completely clean. But it was one of those interesting use case scenarios where it's the same TPU. Nothing's changed. But the material properties effective are different. That's the difference. That's the thing that matters.
Yep. It's why when you do your durometer testing, you're going to have to print solid blocks, because how you print it will change the effective softness of the material. Yeah. Like if there's a little bit of a cavity on each layer, or you've done it slightly differently, it will change that softness. I mean, hell, that's how foaming TPU works. It's still a hard TPU. They've just made it very thin by adding air. So it becomes softer.
I've got some foaming TPU. Soriatech's been putting out some stuff, and
I've not tested theirs yet.
You know, I have a relationship with them, so like they reached out like, hey, you want this? I'm like, what do you want me to print with it? They're like, I don't know, whatever you want. I'm like, if you don't give me something you want me to print with it, it's gonna sit on my shelf.
Yeah.
PHA from Ecogenesis Biopolymers. Polar Filament does all the manufacturing of that. PHA is a marine certified biodegradable material, and it is super effing cool. It is so cool. It's a pain in the ass to print. Once you figure it out, it prints really well, but getting it to like work, getting it to print well is kind of tough because it doesn't, you're like, oh, PHA, it's close to PLA. Like, even in the alphabet, L and H are pretty close to each other. They probably print the same. No, they don't. They do not. They don't even print remotely close to each other. And hilariously, I have to cool my house down more to print PHA properly. Yeah, it goes crystalline closer to like 26, 27 Celsius. And it's 28 in here right now. Yeah, it's a little spicy.
Because nothing is UV stable.
From my understanding with ASA, it is permanently UV stable. But yeah, ASA is
just a better ABS in my eyes.
While it doesn't stink.
It does have an issue. I don't care about the smell because smell is just a byproduct of working.
No, I do. I hate.
And come on, like ABS has a
no,
nice
it doesn't.
Smell.
I hate it.
It's the smell of cancer, and therefore it smells good.
What are you, the director of the U.S. healthcare system?
No.
ABS smells horrid compared to ASA. ASA is like a tenth of the smell because it's missing the butylene, right? The B in ABS is a butylene component, to my understanding.
Yeah, but you're still smelling the styrene. Right. And the styrene is
I understand the styrene is no joke, but ABS has styrene in it too.
Yeah, but like, okay, so my only issue with ASA is it's probably the hardest material to print that most people are going to try and print.
It is not an easy material.
Because it has such low surface energy, so it doesn't stick to much. Like, you can have a perfectly made, like, PEI sheet, and the adhesion to that sheet will be a mouse fart compared to any other material. Like, you print on the smooth side for maximum adhesion, you add your Magi Goo in for maximum adhesion, you warm the chamber up for maximum adhesion, and you look at it the wrong way, it's come off the bed.
Yeah, the trick with ABS is to actually limit how much contact it has with the build plate. So ABS, ASA, they shrink when they cool. We know this occurs. So if you want to minimize warping on a part that is a really wide part, then you run channels. Run channels on it. Or you do what Yontech does and just put a layer of PLA down first and then print on top of the PLA with ABS, which is upsettingly good. It works so good. It's upsetting how good that works. The Galaxy Orange from Polymaker in their ABS or ASA is great. Their Galaxy ABS and ASAs are just beautiful. They add a little bit of glitter in there. And
the annoying thing is, like, ABS and ASA is the PLA of high temp.
It is.
It prints so smooth.
It does. When
like, you can print at any temperature with pretty much any printer as long as it's a high temp chamber, and it will work. It will give you a good part, and it will look great doing the entire thing. It is just such a nice, forgiving material as long as you have heat. It's the high temp PLA in my eyes. And because it flows so thin, you don't get the issues of like PETG, where it sticks to the nozzle, or it sticks to itself, or it absorbs moisture because it's ABS. It doesn't absorb any moisture very readily. An amazing material, and it's why it's quite popular for industrial applications. It's just also a pain in the ass.
It is.
And I hate how popular it is.
It's popular in industrial applications because it can be very close to a 1-for-1 on your injection molding, same material that you can injection mold with. And it was one of the first materials to get, I'm going to put air quotes on, mass produced via 3D printing filament because it was easy to make. That's a big thing with ABS. I would like to see ABS get, like, taken out back kind of thing, and ASA take over. I think it is an overall better material. And traditionally, when people ask us for ABS, I will tell them we're going to use ASA. They're going to ask what that is. And I say, it's ABS, but it's UV stable. Oh, okay, great. That's even better. And we move on. Nobody has Well, okay, one time, it was for a government thing. One time, they're like, nope, it has to be ABS. Otherwise, everybody has been cool with ASA.
Literally, whenever anyone asks me, I'm just like, it's the better ABS. And they go, oh, that's good enough.
It's ABS's weird uncle. It's easy. It works.
What do you mean weird? It's the cool uncle.
Yeah, but I can't say cool because then people... So if you use the word cool, they might think that it like prints colder or doesn't handle as much heat. I just say weird because it's different. But as we talked about earlier, polycarb is a very... You think ABS warps? Let me introduce you to my friend Polycarbonate that hates everything, including you. Polycarbonate,
especially you,
sucks to print. Pure polycarb absolutely sucks to print. If you are looking for a good polycarbonate and don't want to spend a ton of money, Polymaker's PC Lite. I do not know what is in it. I do not know why it prints so good for a PC. I'm going to call it a PC blend. It prints incredibly well. It is incredibly affordable. Absolutely love it. But their PC Lite, it's not pure. It does print well. It's got good impact resistance. It is not as strong as pure PC. I think their PC Max is pure PC, but I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, like polycarb is one of those materials that sounds really cool to print until you print it.
Yeah.
And then you kind of start questioning every decision you've made to get up to that point and why you decided to use polycarb in the first place. Because there is other materials available that kind of do the same job.
Well, polycarb has supreme chemical resistance to certain chemicals over other plastics. That's often why you choose it. It's also very impact resistant. It tends to flex a lot more than other materials before it breaks. And it is not a elastomer like a TPU or TPE is. But